Hello, welcome to my English presentation on hazmat suits. If you're anything like me, you've likely seen hazmat suits in your everyday life, whether in TV shows or pop culture. I personally was obsessed with the HBO series Chernobyl, in which the hazmat suit played a pivotal role in protecting the soldiers that were cleaning up a nuclear disaster. However, you may have seen the suit in other places, such as COVID testing sites or even on Halloween. That being said, even with such a large exposure to this protective device, we may not have a good understanding of what it is or what they do. Luckily, I took the time to take a deep dive into the topic, and here is what I found out. Here's a photo of the hazmat suit. To quote Heather Saul of The Independent, a hazmat suit is, quote, a short for hazardous materials suit, and is a whole body garment designed to protect the wearer against dangerous materials or substances, end quote. It does this by giving the user 300-degree sealed protection from outside contaminants through different components on the suit, which I'll now break down and describe. That being said, I must first draw a distinction before going forward. According to the Independent, there are 4 levels of hazmat suits, conveniently named A, B, C, and D. For the sake of this video, I will only describe the C level suit, as it is the most commonly known suit. That being said, all 4 levels of suits aim at giving the user 360-degree protection from harmful outside contaminants. As can be seen here, the suit consists of a gown meant to protect the body and arms, a respirator to assist with breathing, goggles to protect the eyes, and gloves to protect the hands. As you can see, most of these items are quite simple in nature, but they come together to form an almost impenetrable defense to the outside world. The only component which may be a bit unfamiliar is a respirator, which is a device that filters out hazardous materials from the air before the user can breathe them in, similar to your under sink water filter. Even though the suit is made of simple parts, they have to be made of special materials in order to be effective. For example, the boots must be made out of the rubber so contaminants cannot enter the user's feet. The garments, however, are made of a special material called PVC, which is best at protecting the upper body while being as lightweight as possible. You've likely seen PVC before, but you have not realized it. Take a look within your closet or beneath your sink. There's most likely PVC somewhere in there. This is because it's often used for making raincoats or even indoor plumbing pipes like these. As can be expected, complexity often comes at a cost. With hazmat suits, users often complain about 2 big problems. First off, Bloomberg reporter Brendan Greeley complained about how it can take up to half an hour to put on an entire suit. Second, after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, pictured here, Dr. Cynthia Diane Schwartz wrote a book about the technical lessons learned from this catastrophe. In one chapter, she describes the hazmat suits used for the cleanup, noting how many users, such as the ones pictured here on the right, often suffer from heat fatigue due to the sauna-like nature of the suits. Simply put, the protection of these suits often comes at the price of comfort. While the technical structure of hazmat suits are important, I want to also share the interesting history of how these suits came to be. According to Serene Kale of The Guardian, hazmat suits can trace back their origins to the bubonic plague, where doctors used to wear costumes like these. While these suits were ineffective, they still aimed to protect the doctors from the dangerous disease through face and body covers. Over time, hazmat suits were improved with each medical event that created a need for them. For example, Russian scientists developed a prototype in the 1870s to prevent, quote, imaginary gases from reaching our nostrils, end quote, for bubonic plague in Russia. However, the most influential development happened during the Manchurian plague, where Dr. Wu Li-te encouraged the use of masks as protection. Many people took his advice in using them, as can be seen here in this photo. While this man's suit is a far cry from the technically advanced suits we have today, it does show great resemblances. For example, both suits from the Manchurian plague and modern aim to protect the entire body, not just a portion. Besides, the use of masks also proved to be quite effective in protecting users. Generally speaking, though, the idea of hazmat suits has been around for a very long time, with doctors of bubonic plague attempting to protect themselves by covering their entire body. However, what has changed is the technology we have at our disposal. With the development of masks, respirators, and many other advancements, we were able to greatly improve the effectiveness of full body protection suits into the suits we have today. Now that we know the history of these suits, how are they used today? One way in which hazmat suits are used is for nuclear disaster cleanup efforts. According to Robert Pohl, who wrote Radioactive Waste Management, radioactive waste is so dangerous that it must be disposed of in a way it does not come into contact with nature, with the environment, such as wildlife or water supplies. For such dangerous tasks, the men and women disposing of this waste must use hazmat suits as their main way of protection, as can be seen here in these photos taken in Chernobyl. Ironically enough, hazmat suits are still being used in Chernobyl long after the disaster, this time only by tourists visiting the remnants of what remains. Another way in which these suits are used today is during epidemics, such as the current COVID-19 outbreak. We can see these suits being used by volunteers at testing sites or even people working in hospitals. To quantify the need for this protective equipment, we only need to look at the stock prices for companies that produce hazmat suits. According to Listen to Said, one such company is Lakeland Industries, whose stock rose 22% from the start of the pandemic to February, even before it reached the US. In order to get a visual of how much this company's demand grew, I've attached a photo of their stock in the past year. As you can see, their stock suddenly had an immense spike once the COVID-19 pandemic began, signifying a big increase in the demand for their product, the hazmat suit. Also, the stock for a mask company called Kawamoto Corporation even rose 391%. It is also important to note how this increased demand happened during the SARS and Ebola outbreak as well, showing how much these suits are needed for during the global health crises, and COVID was not just an anomaly. All in all, I know the topic of pandemics and nuclear disasters mixed with history and technical details is not the most uplifting. This is why I thought of ending this presentation on a bit of a lighter note. Think about how important the hazmat suit has been to so many people. Thanks to these suits, we were able to clean up nuclear disasters that put the world at risk, while limiting the side effects to these brave workers. Thanks to these suits, doctors are able to care for the most vulnerable during global pandemics without putting their own families at risk. Lastly, thanks to these suits, Alexei and his two partners were able to dive underneath the Chernobyl plant and divert a problem, saving close to all of Eastern Europe. Okay, the last one may have been a bit of my obsession with this historical event, but it is true. Hazmat suits have saved and bettered the lives of countless people, and who knows, possibly even half of Europe. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I hope you learned a bit about hazmat suits. Thank you very much.